Well, hello, and welcome to the Internal Mobility Podcast, where we explore all of the ways for you to reach your potential at Randstad while also making this giant company a little easier to know and understand. Today, I'm so excited to have our very own new Chief Diversity Officer, Floss Aggrey, is here with us. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Chris. I'm so excited to be here. I can't wait. This is a great opportunity.
Well, I think the first question that everybody's dying to know, because most of us don't get to spend a lot of time with CDOs and maybe don't even have a concept of what that job is. And now we have you representing us there. So tell the team, what does a CDO do? What happens in your world?
Thank you for that, Chris. I think that's just an amazing question, because you're right. There, in their studies, this is study back, that there tends to be a lot of ambiguity around what the role actually does. And I'll break it down in three key areas. So one area is around talent disruption. So the talent acquisition process, you're partnering in setting the agenda, you're leading, leading accountability efforts in equity, diversity, and inclusion around the talent strategy in partnership with talent acquisition team. The second thing around disruption is you're communicating the progress of what we're doing in ED and I&A, specifically to talent acquisition, to our executives, leaders at all levels of the organization. The second thing is going to be business integration. So you are looking for opportunities to embed ED&I in all aspects of the business. You're also ensuring that as a company, we're effectively operating in a space of inclusion. And then thirdly, from an external impact perspective, under this particular role, you're actually engaged with the community. You're spearheading things like that. You're acting externally as an ambassador for Randstad. And another piece, when I talk about external impact, you're also responsible for shaping that ED&I and a footprint in the market and externally. So those are three things. And sometimes people kind of mix up kind of where the CDIO should really be landing. And I would say it's threaded through a lot of different things, but three are our top three.
So you've got a giant job that threads through this entire organization. And it sounds like also quite clearly how we put our money where our mouth is in the external marketplace in terms of the efforts we take internally to make certain all the right things happen for humans.
You got it.
I'm glad you're the gal in the role.
Thank you. I am too.
So I know that our business resource groups are really led, mentored through your team. And last segment, we had Matt Horan that was on, and it was a beautiful story because he talked about how he had actually found his way through his new role through networking within the BRGs. And I'm not convinced that everybody here understands what our BRGs have to offer. So could you unpack that a little bit for us? Like, what happens in a BRG?
Sure. Yeah. And let me just start by saying our BRGs, I mean, they are really there. When you talk about inclusion and that business integration, they are serving to connect those dots. So they play a critical role in the strategy at various levels. And there's a lot of great work in play here. But when you talk about what that actually entails, I'm going to try to keep this brief, but 4 or 5 key things. So one, they do a lot around leading. Right. So they're leading themselves and they're leading others in terms of inclusion, in terms of, planning that they're doing, they're orchestrating, they're creating events, they're listening to other people and in turn taking action. I will say, though, with the business resource group, and I think this is critically important, they're not a monolith, right? So just because there's a quote that says, if you meet one person with disabilities, you meet one person with a disability. So they don't necessarily, although they are a voice, they aren't a voice of every person that represents, the Latina community or African heritage or disability community. So that's important to think about. Also, the learning aspect. There's a lot of learning that goes on from one another in terms of these groups, learning about things that impact you that others may not know about. I hate to keep referring back to the space of people with disabilities, but that's a good one as an example. Sometimes you may not even think about things that may impact other people, like sound or colors and things of that nature. It just makes you more present and aware. Also, you learn more about communication, right? You develop a level of fluidity. You're communicating at the Executive Diversity Council. Sometimes you're heading up events. Sometimes you are communicating with individual contributors. So at various levels of the organization, and it may be the same communication, but you have to learn how to communicate those things in different ways. They do a lot of CSR work around corporate citizenship. I feel like the social impact piece, which is important. It's important. A big part of our sustainability goals, just decent work, economic growth. And then the last one I think I want to talk about is that inclusion in action and networking, to your point, that happens there. There's a lot of sort of constructive disagreement sometimes. Sometimes I can't say a lot, but it does happen, right? Different people feel strongly about different things. And I think when we talk about inclusion, or if you're managing or you're thinking about managing teams or something, you learn, you pick up inclusive skills, inclusive traits in terms of engaging with other people and how to navigate through different things. And those are some of the things that I've experienced, but in a really good way. And that's the key to success. And when you talk about diversity and inclusion, that's that sort of that difference in opinion that we may have, but then we arrive at sort of a common goal because we know we're here for the same reasons.
So what I heard was we have multiple opportunities for our folks to participate in BRGs where they can learn how to problem solve, resolve conflict, how to learn empathy from others' perspectives, get smarter about inclusion, network, create projects, meet people from all over the company, and at least in Matt's case, find your way to a new job because you did something impactful and develop new relationships. So how do our folks get involved? Like, what would you recommend? There's somebody out there that's been hearing BRGs, but they don't really know how to do that. Like, what do you have to say to that person?
No, that's a great point. Another great question. So there's mentorship that you could do depending on where you stand in terms of your role. There is, you can serve as sort of an ally in terms of using your voice, as a support person. There are a lot of committee things going on. Just hop on, connect. And once you go to BRGs, you'll see everyone that we have set up in place. Click one, click to join, or just listen in to learn more as a start. But we definitely need additional hands. Always need additional hands advancing this type of work.
Excellent. So Floss, what's been your favorite human forward moment in the last couple of weeks?
You know what? In this role, I have to say I have the pleasure and opportunity of a lot of experiences in that space, just in talking and engaging with so many different types of people. But the latest one that comes to mind is an event that I hosted yesterday, and it just really demonstrated just the opportunity to impact talent acquisition. There were a lot of folks in talent acquisition from various companies externally that was a part of that virtual session, and I got just a lot of great feedback from the TAs about just how that helped them look at things in a different way around equity and inclusion, expanding how they monitor and measure things. And we have to remember that sort of the talent acquisition team, they are the drivers of a lot of this stuff, right? They are the ones that have that face-to-face communication, well, virtually now with candidates. So they're the ones showing up, and they're the first face that candidate sees in terms of equity or inclusion or experiences around accessibility. So when we talk about society as a whole, there's a lot that they can contribute, and they do contribute. That's not lost on me. So appreciative of that group, and I always have a human forward experience engaging with TAs.
Well, as your TA partner for Randstad, I can say that I am so grateful that you're using your perspective and your skill, not just to influence here, but what makes that such a beautiful human forward moment is like you're influencing humans outside of Randstad, right? Yeah. The idea that you can move social by changing perception, and that you're getting out there not just to make a difference for Randstad and our clients, but people in general. Thank you. Thank
you, Chris. And I just quickly want to add to that. if when people think about equity, diversity, and inclusion, I think it's just critically important to remember it's big. It's, it does have an impact on us as a business, but it's bigger than our organization. It's bigger than our business. This work is impacting society at large. So, thank you.
Agreed, 100%. Well, thanks for unpacking your role and specifically the BRGs in its context of giving folks opportunities to network, which we have heard here over and over again are a huge contributor to folks that do make their way into other lines of business. And congratulations on your new role. We are so glad that you're here.
Thank you so much, Chris. I appreciate it. I'm glad you're here.